Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where we're back with our Scourge of Ghyran. It's day 13 of the event series, and a change is coming, because today is the day of Tzeentch. It's not the right number, but it is the day. So let's welcome in the season of change. Today's video hasn't quite been uploaded yet. I seem to be really hot on these at the minute, getting them recorded, but hey, that's fine. It says it's Lydia, so your low drop will be from Lydia, but we're not here for that, we're here for the rules. So we'll skip over the first line because it just leads into the previous lore stuff. But our battle formations today: should you wish your Acolytes to fight swifter, then cast your gaze upon Master of Fate, inspiring them in the presence of Tzeentchian demons. Or perhaps you look to empowering your wizards. With a flick of your wrist, you could summon a Spellweaver Coven, enabling them to cast spells in your combat phase. Wow, nice. Why use a sword when you can turn your foe into a fish? I mean, that's a valid point. I'd still rather have steel in my hand, but you know, fish are good. 3 Artifacts of Power are our next gifts. First is the Mutating Blade that looks like, well, one moment it's an axe with eyes, the next it's a sword with a mouth or a spear with wings. Whatever form it takes, it's virtually impossible to parry. Oh, interesting. I wonder how they're going to do that then. The Arcane Siphon is every hero's dream trinket as it banishes manifestations, not this time Purple Sun, and uses the residual energy to heal its bearer. Nice. Magic makes for an excellent healing balm. Lastly, the Spellcatcher Amulet waits for a manifestation to be banished, steals all the dissipating energy, and fires it out as a spell more pleasing to Tzeentch. Sounds like they're having some fun with these then. The last couple have really had quite a themey vibe for the armies that they're doing. I mean, these all have been good, but there's some interesting sounding stuff in there. While magic is the only true way to destroy your foes, sometimes a shiny sword can help. Which is why our last 2 gifts are War Scroll. Drawing on the power of nearby manifestations, the Kairic Acolytes are stronger in this season of war, while their Volcaric pets are more capricious, seeking out weaknesses in the enemy lines and whispering their findings to their Arcanite handlers. Leading the Arcanites are the Ogroid Thaumaturges. So revered are they that Arcanites will gladly sacrifice themselves to protect their sorceress idol. Cautiously, that devotion goes both ways. If Arcanites are fighting and the Thaumaturge is far away, it can transport itself across the battlefield to join them. Interesting. General's Handbook fact number 6. Knowing when you're on an objective is of utmost importance, especially when you absolutely must control it to win the game. That's why this General's Handbook box contains 6 objective markers that sit at the very center 3-inch radius discs. These durable markers are made from polythene terethalite, a suitable name for a Tzeentchian hero if ever there was one, and they're super flexible, durable, thin, and most importantly, they look great. The icons in the center all key into the new battle plans, making them super easy to use and start gaming with. They're not actually telling us anything new about objectives, are they? But that's expected, that's very spearhead. We anchor on Warhammer community until tomorrow to see what we're revealing next. If they're doing sea stuff, it's gotta be the Ideneth Deepkin, right? With all the sea puns. I'm still waiting for my slaves. I want my slaves to darkness. Right, okay, let's take a look at these rules. It sounds like there's some interesting stuff here. Sometimes the articles don't quite mirror up with what the rules actually do. It's almost like whoever's written this article hasn't read the document sometimes. But we'll see. There's some really cool stuff in there that they've mentioned. Hopefully this lives up to it. And today's faction update: Disciples of Tzeentch. Battle formations: Masters of Fate. Passive: Symbiotic Madness. Effect: each friendly Arcanite unit's melee weapons have crit 2 hits when they're wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch demon unit. That's just generally nice, isn't it? And Spellweaver Coven: once per turn, army your combat phase. Sorcerers of War. Declare pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard that is in combat to be the target. Effect: the target can use a non-summon spell ability as if it were your hero phase, but only the caster or enemy units in combat with that caster can be picked to be the targets of that spell. Interesting. That's a cool little extra though. I like that they're playing with some of these abilities and letting you use them in different phases. That's quite cool. Our Artifacts of Power: the Esoteric Treasures. For heroes only. First one, Mutating Blade. It's a deployment phase ability. Effect: pick one of the unit's melee weapons. That weapon's attack characteristic is 2d6 for the rest of the battle. What? What? Wow. Next one, Arcane Siphon. Once per turn, army, your hero phase. Declare, pick a visible manifestation, friendly or enemy, that was not set up this turn and is within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Effect, roll the dice. On a 3-up, the target is banished. Heal X this unit, where X is the target's health characteristic. Wow. Wow. Now final one, Spellcatcher Amulet. Once per turn army, your hero phase. Declare, this unit can use this ability if any enemy manifestations were banished this phase, which actually ties into Arcane Siphon as well, doesn't it? Effect, this unit can use a summon ability from the manifestation lore you picked during army composition. That summon ability does not count towards the total number of spell or banish abilities this unit can use this phase. So just an extra manifestation. Oh, there's some really nice artifacts of power here, isn't there? The battle formations are nice as well. This is looking quite strong. So over to our war scrolls now. We'll start with the Ogroid Thaumaturge. We have a 6-inch move with a 5-up save. No ward. I thought they had a ward. 8 health, 2 control. Range weapons, the Thaumaturge staff, 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 4s, no rend, d3 damage. Bit swingy. And melee weapons, Great Horns and Cloven Hooves, charge +1 damage, 6 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, 2 damage. 2 abilities, passive Soul Deep Devotion. Effect, while this unit is within a friendly non-hero Arcanite unit's combat range, this unit has a 4-up ward. That's where the ward comes in, okay. And each time you make a successful ward roll for this unit, allocate 1 damage point to a friendly non-hero Arcanite unit within this unit's combat range after the damage sequence for this unit has been resolved. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. So if you're within combat range of an Arcanite unit, a non-hero Arcanite unit, your Ogroid gets a 4-up ward, but you are siphoning through, basically sacrificing the minions. That's quite a nice passive. Our final ability, a once per turn army, any charge phase, Wrath of the Thaumaturge. Declare, if this unit is not in combat, pick a friendly Arcanite unit in combat to be the target. Effect, remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again within 1 inch of the target and in combat. This unit has charged. Keywords core and charge. So it can teleport itself into combat, which, 6 attacks, but you're hitting on 4s, so it's not great. But you do get your +1 damage for using this ability. There's no range. So you just pick an Arcanite unit anywhere on the board. I'm going to work on the theory that it should be visible at the very least, but it can just ping in and then you trigger the passive, which gives this unit the 4. Quite a lot of play into those units. So obviously this war scroll is looking at specifically building a certain way. That's quite fun. Keywords, Hero, Wizard 1, Inventory, Chaos, Disciples of Tzeentch, and Arcanite. And the Ogroid Thaumaturge is 130 points, regiment options, any Arcanite. 130 points for that unit seems pretty good, I have to say. So we do have the faction pack for Disciples of Tzeentch. They haven't had their battle tome yet, so we're going to have a quick look at the Ogroid Thaumaturge from the original rules. Okay, so the original faction pack, Ogroid Thaumaturge, 6-inch move with a 5-up save and a 6-up ward, 8 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, the Thaumaturge staff, 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 4s, d3 damage, no change there. Melee weapons, we have the Great Horns and Cloven Hooves, 3 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, 2 damage, +1 charge. We do have an extra melee weapon, the Thaumaturge staff, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, no rend, d3 damage. So you are losing that, and you lose your 6-up ward, but I suppose if you're playing it a certain way, then you're gaining a 4-up ward. There's already some interesting changes, isn't there? Our passive Thaumaturge Rage effect, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks while it is damaged. So that's quite a nice passive that would be great for a unit that you want in combat all the time. Interesting that it's lost that. Our next one, Burning Fury. It's a once per turn army, end of any turn ability. Declare, pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by this unit's combat attacks to be the target. Effect, the target has the burning keyword. Keywords, Hero, Wizard 1, Infantry, Ward 6-up, Chaos, Disciples of Tzeentch, and Arcanite. Some pretty big changes between the war scrolls. And this War Scroll is 130 points as well. So points wise, they're the same. Very interesting. So again, Scourge of Ghyran War Scrolls is giving us a different way to use a unit. Not necessarily better, there's no points change. The difference is you don't have your base 6-up ward, but you do gain a ward if you're close to certain units. Our melee weapons are different, okay. So you lose your Thaumaturge staff in melee combat, but you gain an extra 3 attacks for the horns and hooves, which translates to if you charge, and if you're using the ability, you will count as charged. You gain extra damage, you gain extra 3 attacks. Yeah, okay. Ranged weapon is the same. It's tough, isn't it? I quite like the rage ability where you add +1 to hit and wound rolls when the target's damaged, but as soon as that 8 health is dropping down, you're probably going to go down pretty quickly with a 5-up save and a 6-up ward. I don't know. I mean, they're the same points, so it really does, and this is what's amazing about this event. I think it's so much better than the Grotma stuff, because they're just giving you different ways of using units. I quite like the Ghyran War Scroll. Obviously, you've got to be playing into the Arcanite and building as many Arcanite units and being able to do it. Maybe take 3 of these Ogroids, a load of Arcanite units, and turning them into more of like a melee team. But then with the Artefacts of Power and I suppose you would go Masters of Fate, wouldn't you? So that your Arcanite units, melee weapons, have crit 2 hits if they're within 12 inches of a demon unit. Again, I don't think that there's a better one. Let's take a look at our second War Scroll now. So this is the Kairic Acolytes. We have a 5-inch move with a 5-up save, 1 health, 1 control, melee weapons, cursed blades and glaives, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, no rend, 1 damage, so they are your base inventory. 2 abilities, first one passive, empowered by magic. Effect, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons while this unit is wholly within 12 inches of any manifestations, friendly or enemy. Okay, that's probably going to be quite easy to proc then. Our second ability, so once per turn army ability in your shooting phase, Kairic, declare pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Effect, for the rest of the turn add 1 to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Kairic Acolytes units for attacks that target that enemy unit. That must be sending out the Tzeentchian Eagle thing, is it? Both very nice abilities. The passive is easy enough to get off. Interesting. Keywords, Infantry Champion, Chaos Disciples of Tzeentch, and Arcanites. And they are a unit of 10 with 1 champion, 100 points, regiment options, Arcanite, and infantry. They sound like they could do some damage in melee combat as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the Kairic Acolytes for the standard faction pack. So what have we got? We've got a 5-inch move with a 5-up save, 1 health, 1 control, no change there. They do have a ranged weapon. Sorcerer's Bolt, 18-inch range, 1 attack, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, no rend, 1 damage, Wild Flame ability. And then we have melee weapons. I'm guessing that you would choose. So the Cursed Blade is 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 4s, no rend, 1 damage. Cursed Glaive, 1 attack, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. I think they've just merged those together. A little couple of bullet points here. Each model in this unit is armed with a Cursed Blade and Sorcerer's Bolt. So you could fire off 10 Sorcerer's Bolt. Wow, nice. 3 of the models can replace their Cursed Blade with a Cursed Glaive, so they've just got rid of that option for the new one. I think this is something that we're trying to see as well. They're streamlining weapon options. That's the feeling I'm getting moving forward anyway. 1 model armed with a Cursed Blade can be accompanied by the Kairic. 1 model armed with a Cursed Blade can carry a Scroll of Dark Arts. And the champion cannot be accompanied by a Kairic or carry a Scroll of Dark Arts. Quite a few stipulations there. There's no reference to a Scroll of Dark Arts in the Ghyran War Scroll. We do have 2 abilities, so the first one, passive Kairic. Effect, while this unit includes any models accompanied by Kairic, subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards within 12 inches of this unit. That's very different. Second ability, your shooting phase, Gestalt Sorcery. Effect, if this unit includes any models carrying a Scroll of Dark Arts, roll a dice. Add 1 to the roll for each other friendly Kairic Acolytes units within this unit's combat range. On a 5-up, add 1 to the rend characteristic of this unit's Sorcerer's Bolts for the rest of the turn. Playing into Sorcerer's Bolts, that's why we haven't seen any reference to Scroll of Dark Arts, because they've just got rid of it. Keywords, Infantry Champion, Chaos, Disciples of Tzeentch and Acolytes. And they are 90 points for that war scroll, so there's a 10-point difference. But what do we think? Stat-wise they're the same, they've lost their ranged completely, but they are much more melee focused. They can boost their own damage, they can boost their rend. I quite like the base war scroll. Being able to play with enemy wizards and subtracting 1 from casting rolls is nice. For an extra 10 points, oh, it's tough, isn't it? Again, 10 points in the point system of AOS, 10 points. Let's say you take 3 units, 30 points, maybe you reinforce them, 60 points. That's not a huge thing because quite often you'll have points left over depending on how you build your list. But this really gives you another option of just a different war scroll, a different way of using your unit. I don't think there's one that's better than the other. I quite like them both. The Ghyran one is definitely more melee focused, and the things that you can do against manifestations and how the Vulkaric works really just boosts your damage. And as Tzeentch, you're probably going to be throwing out manifestations as often as you can. Enemy manifestations as well, you get your bonus. All in all, that's really nice. I think the standard faction pack has some nice elements as well. The ranged is quite nice to have, but hits on 4s. Depends if you're building into that weird flame or not. I don't know, this is tough. You're going to have to let me know what you think in the comments below, especially Disciples of Tzeentch players. Do you have a preference on which war scroll you would take? I think you can make an argument for any of the ones that we've just looked at. On the whole, I quite like these. I think they're fairly solid new additions and new choices to have. Again, it's giving the player more choice. Once again, we are seeing units that have multiple weapon choices. We're seeing a lot of this condensed down. Might just be for this. I have a feeling it's for moving forward. They're going to give probably the standard weapon more attacks, but tweak it, maybe tweak the damage a little bit. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, what they've done with the melee weapons here, you could only take 3 glaives, but they've made it so that all of your attacks just hit on 1 less. You lose the rend, you lose 1 point of damage, so you lose 3 points of damage if all of your glaives go through, and you lose the rend. You can gain the rend here, and if you're near a manifestation, all of your attacks get +1 damage. So actually, they've tried to balance between the two. They've taken away the choice of the war gear, but they've given you a choice in running the unit differently. You know what I'm like with war gear. I really miss, the biggest problem with 10th edition is that, 40k, is that they've taken away war gear points, they've taken away war gear options, they've really just watered all that down. For me, Age of Sigmar never had that because I've come in at 4th edition, so I'm okay with being able to pick one or the other. But if they get rid of that and just make the base melee weapon or ranged weapon, whichever profile, slightly better, I'm more than okay with that. Artifacts of Power, these are really nice, really themey, they fit the faction, and I think they would be really fun to use. And I quite like the battle formations. I think this is a very strong faction update. But like I say, let me know in the comments what you think. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.